instructions for uploading both a session as well as weekly attendance and participation grades into Blackboard. The first thing you're going to want to do is open the Turning Point app. You're going to want to log in through Professor Landgreb's credentials, which I'll have in the sheet with the instructions. But you need that to have the proper administrative access to be able to upload weekly sessions into the Blackboard grading book itself. So it should populate automatically this current course. And you should be able to click Manage to add sessions on a given day or a given week right into the course itself. If it doesn't exist there, you should be able to. It could be wrong. They keep changing it. It should show up, but periodically you could update the course through here, though that isn't a feature that I've seen in prior years. For the session itself, you can just drag it right into the course. I would move the session into your Turning Point folder. It'll help organize it. So in the end of the course, you'll have all of the sessions. It'll show it uploaded. If you click the session itself, it will bring you into the results manager, which has specifics about the questions themselves. If once we get to adding bonus points, if you want to monitor what people's responses are, and also set the ramifications for extra credit, which we can talk about later. But to do the actual parts that we're talking about today, you want to click on the course itself. The overview shows you the different types of columns you can have. For the purposes of uploading stuff to Blackboard, you'll just want the participation points per session. So here's the session itself. As you add more to the class, obviously there'll be more room, but you really don't need the participation column. The first thing you want to do is you want to set participation points to 1, and you want to set the session threshold to 0. What that does is it says if anyone has filled out any of the responses in the class, give them a point. This would be for attendance. Once you've done that bit, you should be good to go to export into Blackboard. But first, I would update the current roster, which will pull in anyone who might have been missing from the last time, as well as any clickers that are not registered or licensed. You'll get a list here, and every week I would send an email to all of these students with them BCC'd on it, reminding them again that they need to both have they need to have a registered and a licensed Turning Point clicker. You should be able to pull the most recent FAQ documentation off of the Northeastern website on how to license and register clicker. And I would send that information to them. So once you do that, it should update the roster. 83 participants were updated, as well as on the bottom here, some unassigned devices will later become assigned. This is something you can consult as well too if there's someone who's like, I've registered my clicker like 5 times and it's still not showing up, and you can manually pair them to particular students. So that's pretty nifty. So once you're ready to upload, you click integrations once again, and then you click upload. It will remind you again, folks who aren't licensed and registered, you want to check that against the other list that you have as well too. There can be some weird discrepancies between what the different things say. In fact, this window didn't exist last year like that. So you want to upload the column itself. Upload. And then it'll put it in progress. So you need to upload the columns individual. First your attendance and first your participation. I'll show you why. So you want to then log into Blackboard. I've already logged in. You can log in with your address. You don't need the professor's. And if you go into the gradebook, the column should be uploaded and everyone's grades should be graded. Right here, you see the column. I would retitle the column attendance hyphen whatever week it is. Attendance week 1. And then make sure it goes into the category. In this case, attendance. You've now created your attendance column. So you hop back into Turning Point after that, and you want to export your participation column. In the case where there are a number of classes in a week, which will happen, every week except the first week, you want to make sure you do this for all three of the columns or all two of the columns. In the case of participation, you want to have the session. In the case of attendance, you want to have the sessions threshold set to 0. In the case of participation, you want to set the session threshold to 85%. So what this says is we want to give a point to people who answered 85% or more of the questions. And then you do the same thing that we did before about uploading it to Blackboard. We're going to basically upload the same column again. And the reason I have you do it one at a time is so you're not uploading the same column. Actually, I want to refine what it is that I've said, so apologies for that. If we we hop back into the full grade center again, it hasn't yet added the column. I was exporting the individual column for the particular class in question, but what you really should be exporting rather than just one class is you should be exporting total points, which will give you, if you have multiple classes, it will give you, multiple points for it. So in the case of attendance, when uploading it, you should have uploaded the total points column. And I'll make sure that's explicit in the notes. Total points. So that's uploading here. There we go. In this case, since we've set the threshold to 85%, this would be participation week 1. Yeah, it's the participation group. Great. Now you want to go to Manage and Column Organization, and what you want to do is you want to move the columns to the front of the gradebook, because whenever you create a new one, it'll create it right at the end. So I put the current week's attendance at the top, and the current week's participation at the top. What you'll also want to do is you want to remove the previous week's attendance and participation from view. So what I would do is I would first move it to the back of the gradebook, and then you can hide the columns themselves. And I'll show you how to do that. There are a couple of different ways to do it. So I submitted this along, so now we'll get to see what an organized grade center looks like. Now the attendance and participation have moved to the front here. And like I said, we want to move the prior year columns to the back of the gradebook, and then once they are in the back of the gradebook, I know I'm doing this with the current weeks, but we don't have more than 1 week. You just hide it from students. The reason you want to hide it from students is we only have 1 week of attendance and participation grades that are available for review, which means they can email you and claim that there was some kind of trouble. But after that, you hide the group, you hide the columns, you move them to the back of the gradebook, and they don't have the opportunity to question the grades anymore. So those are the steps that you will use through Blackboard. Total attendance will sum up all of the columns, as we have created more weeks, as will total participation. Great. I'm trying to see if there's any other. The next bit of work you have to do is on the turning point side of things. Once you've exported the participation and attendance grades, you won't be exporting them again. So while you will maybe make updates to it, I would click on the column and exclude it. What that means, it pulls it away from the total points. So when you're adding in the new week's attendance and participation grades, it will only um, sum it up from the most recent weeks. So you're not exporting total points columns every week. You're just having it added to the column that's already created. Let me know if there's any questions regarding that. Also, as the week progresses and you receive troubleshooting emails from people and you add points back to their grade, you would want to do it both here in Turning Point to have a record of changes you've made. So if Farhan later has a valid excuse for not being there and you want to give them the point, you can give them a point, which will give them a point in both attendance and participation. But you'll also want to make the change in the gradebook itself. We try to only export the column once, but we want to make sure the records between the two is consistent. So unless you want to go through exporting all of the columns at the end of the week and folks not being able to see their grades updated real time, you just have to edit it in two places. After you have, and you can also update folks' grades on daily, not just weekly. So after you've done all of the exporting and updating into the gradebook, I would send an email to the class. I would send two emails. I would say one that says attendance and participation grades have been posted for the current week. You have a week to review if there were any difficulties or troubleshooting that needs to happen. And if you don't reach out within that week, then the grades are set in stone. You can only question a grade for 1 week at a time. So that'd be the first email I would send. The second email would be to the unregistered and unlicensed folks to make sure that they license and register. And you send along their the FAQ information about how to do so. So that's the ins and outs of basically exporting week to week. The next bit would be adding bonus points as bonus points become more relevant, but we can cross that bridge when we get there. I hope this is helpful, and I hope you can go back to it periodically if you need to, but that it should be clear enough within the first couple times to kind of get the flow of it. All right, thanks so much.